Want to welcome all of you to the meeting of the Confederate Statue Relocation Committee, the October 28th meeting. We'll call the meeting to order. Those of you who are on the committee and those who are watching live, welcome to the meeting. The first thing that we need to do is to approve the minutes from the last meeting, October 14th. You all have had time, I assume, to read those and make sure everything is correct. So I need a motion to approve the minutes from the October 14th meeting.
That's too hot. I'll move.
Thank you, Ed. And now I need a second.
I'll second.
Second, thank you. All those in favor of approving the minutes as they are, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Tim, did you say aye?
Yeah, aye, but I forgot to turn the mute off, sorry.
Oh, okay. We've got you then. We want to talk about some of the old business first. If you remember from last meeting, we had approved a timeline that combined what Kenny had come up with and I'd worked on, and we decided that the deadline for comments would be Tuesday the 20th. And we received about 18 more comments after that. Total of around 50 comments. There have not been as many as I kind of expected, but there's been a wide gamut of comments. And I have responded to them all. There were a few that suggested things like throwing it into the river, all that I did not respond to, but I have responded. Had a phone call today with a 90-year-old lady who had called Pam Smith Wright, wanted to talk to somebody on this committee. And so she and I finally got together, and her comment was that she wondered why we could not vote on it in an election. And I explained to her that that's frankly unconstitutional. It is not something that we can do. And she was fine with that. And I asked her, where would she like it to be cited? And she said she didn't really care. She just wanted to check and make sure that there were lots of views being considered. And I think that we are, as a committee, have done that. The additional comments that came in, there were 5 for the Panther Creek location. So that was an increase. That has always been one of the places, but there were more this time. There were 2 for the Museum of Science and History, 5 for the Art Museum, 1 for Elmwood, and 1 for St. Alphonsus. Now, we have had 2 people comment about St. Alphonsus. And as you know, there are 2 Confederate soldiers buried there who were killed by firing squad. It's a horrible incident. But early on, the judge talked to the priest at St. Alphonsus, and he didn't feel like that was something he wanted. And we've only had the 2 suggestions. Do you all have any comments about suggestions that have come in? Because you've looked at all of them. I did not count them all again, but I think it was probably around 50 total comments that have come in. Does anybody have anything to discuss about any of those comments?
No.
Anybody else?
No.
Okay, I think I want to make it clear that our decision will not be based on the numbers. It's not a vote. This is to get a general idea from the community what people would like to see. And it's important for the community to understand the statue will be moved, but the final decision and the logistics is up to the fiscal court. What we will do, and our personal views are important, and I think we've talked about those, but I want the community to understand that the final decision, we will send a recommendation to fiscal court. The final recommendation is up to the members of the fiscal court as to what, and the logistics of who will take it, where it will go, if they will take it, are also up to them. We're making our recommendations based on what we have heard from the community and our best judgment for the safety, the appropriateness, and perhaps the educational value of a particular site. I want to also remind all those that are listening, I think those of you on the committee know this, but I want to remind people there will be no taxpayer money spent on this relocation. A donor has stepped forward and will cover it. I also have received 2 notices from people talking about the Mellon Foundation, which this is a very large group, and they have made some money available to communities moving statutes such as this. So we will include that in the recommendation to the county court, that if there should be need for more money, this is one of the possibilities. At the last meeting, I asked different ones of you to check on certain sites. Kenny was ill, so he got off. He didn't have to do that. But Wes, you were to talk to the Art Museum, and you were to talk to the United Daughters of the Confederacy, and Tim, you were to talk to Elmwood, and I was to talk to the Museum of Science and History. And I can report, as I have said before, I have talked in depth with Kathy Olson, the director. They would like to have it. The working out between the city and the county, how that would be done is beyond our purview, but the museum would like to have it. Now, Wes, what did you find out from the Art Museum?
The Art Museum was pleased to know that we had considered them, but they decided that they didn't have the space to take it on. And they were very appreciative that we even gave them some consideration.
Okay. And I think probably we need to keep that site in mind. I'm not just sure. I've been thinking all afternoon about where they would put it, and that is a problem. But a lot of people have suggested that the Art Museum, because of the sculptor George Julian Zolnay and his ties to Owensboro, it's really interesting because that statue is it's not like one that was just cast over and over. This one was particularly sculpted for Owensboro, and interestingly enough, the model was a Union soldier from here in Owensboro. And so I think I told you last time, there's a group of papers that have been found at the Smithsonian that have not been gone through and cataloged yet, from dealing with George Julian Zolnay. So that's something to keep in mind. Tim, what did you find out?
I spoke with the lady at Elmwood, and she said I was the 4th person who had called her about it. So I think she was already worn out by the time I talked to her, but she talked to their legal folks, and they have no interest in getting involved in this. So I think Elmwood is probably out of the picture. Okay.
Did you tell her that this was not expected to be free? They would be.
Yeah, I said, the anticipation would be, that maybe some lots would be purchased,
right.
There'd be some, so she didn't seem interested. She said specifically that she talked to the legal department and they don't want to get in the middle of it. So. Well,
that's interesting because they own a whole bunch of cemeteries, and a number of Confederate statues have been moved to some of their other cemeteries. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I even mentioned that.
Yeah,
I think I even mentioned that, that we know that there had been others moved, but she said that the legal department said that they didn't want to get in the middle of it. Now, that's not to say you couldn't try it again.
Yeah.
Somebody at the county, the fiscal court, she did suggest that there may be a city cemetery that abuts that cemetery. I don't know about that.
It's the Pauper Cemetery, isn't it?
I don't know.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And she suggested putting it there.
Down the hill.
Somebody had suggested that once before, but that, I don't know, that's an interesting suggestion, but I guess the city does own the Pauper Cemetery. I did not realize that. Okay, Anne, what did you find out from the United Daughters?
I did. I talked to several people, and they have a deed. They own the statue. No, yes, they do.
Well,
and wait, let me talk.
I'm letting you talk.
They are prepared to sue. They already have 2 lawyers, and they're going to sue. They have about 5 locations where they would like to move it. So
5.
So that's what they're going to do.
Well, have they suggested those 5 locations? Because,
They have not told me.
so they didn't tell you anything about where they would like it to go?
No.
Well, I would say if they want to sue, that's fine, because there's a precedent of those kind of suits, and they won't win, but they certainly, if they want to spend that kind of money, that's a possibility. We have
They
got
have the money. They have the money.
Okay. Okay.
No problem.
Did you suggest to them about Panther Creek? I mean, I would
I
like
did
to know
not.
what it is they want.
They own the statue. I'm telling you what they told me. They own the statue. They have the deed. It is widely known that they own the statue, and well, let me get this straight. They have not mentioned to me, and I didn't ask for what the places were, because I felt like if they wanted me to know, they would have said it. And that was just today, so I didn't. It actually was right before this. And I cut off the conversation because I knew we were going to have the meeting.
I see.
But I have had some rather long conversations with some of them.
Yeah.
And if they are not, I'm not real sure about this, Aloma, but I think if they don't like the place that is chosen where to move it, then they're going to step in and do it. And they have plenty of money, and they've already got 2 lawyers on board, and they're going to pursue this.
Well,
So
and that is certainly their right. I do wish that we knew what it is that they want, which site. That would help us if we knew where they wanted it moved. We had originally, it had been suggested taking it out to the battle site, or possibly taking, and I've said to you all before, the base and the statue can be separated.
And they're totally opposed to that. Totally opposed to that.
Well, then they're going to have to give us some idea of what they want, unless they're just opposed, period. And then that does become a legal matter. But I don't understand why they have not shared. If you say there are 5 sites, it would really be helpful if we knew what those were.
I just want to say I agree with that. I've had conversations with them too, and I do think it's an open question, Aloma, who owns it, but that's beside the point right now. My thought was, if you've got some spots, tell us what they are. Maybe there'll be overlap with what else we're getting.
Precisely.
So my hope is that they'll get that to us quickly so we can consider those sites, because I've asked for them a couple of weeks ago and haven't heard anything else.
Well, and thank you for doing that, but I don't understand why that they are so hesitant. The only official United Daughters person that I have heard from, and that we've gotten a comment from, who identified themselves with the daughters, was Cindy. Well, I'm blanking now. I've known her half my life. Who is the president of the McLean County group? She lives up in Hancock County, and her suggestion as a member was to take it to Elmwood. So we really, I don't understand why we've not heard more. There were quite a few suggestions that came in this last time before the deadline for the Panther Creek battlefield site.
Did they say that? I thought they said UDC property. Now, that may be the only property they own, so that may be what was meant, but I don't recall it being that specific.
There were some that were specific. I don't have I did have the exact number. There were 7 comments that came in this last time suggesting Panther Creek Park. Now, I'll concede that maybe one of those just said UDC property, but specifically there were several that said Panther Creek, which, all along, that was kind of like the first suggestion. And that would be an appropriate place.
And so that may be one of their sites. I don't know.
Well,
I do not know.
If you, between now and the next meeting, now we're going to try to narrow things down today, and then next meeting will be to get the final 3, probably 3, so that we can work on the recommendation. Even though we have stopped taking comments, since they are so adamant, it would really be helpful to know what they're thinking. Now, we have had a couple of people who suggested moving it to Elkton, to the Jefferson Davis Memorial. But I think the general feeling has always been, and you all tell me if this is right, that it was to be kept in Davis County.
I would think so. And besides,
I believe that was,
one little comment. It's Fairview, Kentucky, not Elkton.
Oh, okay. It's near Elkton. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. I
I've
just
been
didn't
there,
want
but
you to
it's
say
been a
that.
long time.
Yeah, I didn't
you're
want you to
right.
keep
Fair.
saying that and people saying, no.
It's near Elkton. Okay.
It is very near.
Yeah, and there have been suggestions to see about if the Civil Rights Museum in Washington, D.C., which I can't imagine why they would want it, or the Smithsonian. But my response to people has been, my understanding was that it was to stay in Davis County.
I believe that was a comment made by Judge Mattingly.
I
That
believe
it
you're
was,
right.
was to stay.
Okay, so those are off the table immediately then. I think we just need to be sure that the community and the United Daughters are educated on, need to understand when it was erected and what was happening at the time. That's really important because that's behind the whole thing about moving it, is the history. In 1900, this wasn't right after the war, this was sometime after the war. And we were in the middle of, as I have said to you all before, but I'm sure you've all read the history of a period of white supremacy. I mean, that's pure and simple what it is, and everything you read will tell you that. But the war was over. But what I personally want to say is we should never forget the Civil War and those who died. But we do need to put things into context. And the thing that has concerned me all along on all this is the Civil War is never going to be over until we accept the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, the things that were promised as a result of that war. And a lot of people died on both sides fighting over that issue. And yet, since those amendments were passed, certainly since 1877, we've been doing everything we can to undo them. And these are issues that are in the news right now. So I just want everybody to keep those things in mind as we go over these. So I think what we want to do today is see if we can narrow down the possibilities. We probably can't get the top 3 or 4, but we can certainly narrow them down to a group of no more than 5. And then at the November 4th meeting, we're going to decide which ones we're going to recommend and work on the recommendation. And then at November 11th meeting, we will approve, I hope, the recommendation and send it on. And I just want to say, you people have worked very hard. This has not been an easy thing because everybody has feelings one way or the other. And you all have given up a lot of your time. And I personally appreciate that. And from the comments that I've gotten from a lot of people in the community, they appreciate it. It's been interesting as you've read the comments, the things that people have said.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at let's try to narrow our list down. Anybody?
I would think that there needs to be a discussion about pushing the timeline back, being in light of what Tim found out and even the conversations that Ann had, that one of the top consensus is for the most part off the table with Elmwood.
Well, it's not really off the table until the county does, we can recommend whether they tell us they want it or not. That's for the county to work out. That is not our job.
I see it pretty pointless to recommend Elmwood at this point with the conversation that Tim had. We can do it. We could recommend it to put it in my front yard, but I don't want it there. So,
well, no.
What's the purpose?
I hear you. I hear you.
Oh, you're too funny.
But that's my thinking is is I sure would love to hear from the daughters and try to get a dialogue with them, with this committee, to actually to see if there's some ideas that haven't been proposed, and maybe reopen up communication with the public again to kind of further this a little bit. I mean, it just talking about adding maybe a couple more weeks to the process, and I hate to do it, but I think in this situation that's what, to me, seems logical.
Well, I certainly think that we could expand it for a short while. I had hoped to have this done by Thanksgiving, frankly.
I would too.
Because the suggestions that are coming in are repetitive.
Yes.
We're not getting, unless the United Daughters want to speak up, which they have not, except about Panther Creek. That's all that I have heard, and I'm assuming that's from some of the daughters. Holding this off is just going to keep time wasting, frankly. One suggestion could be that the statue be put into storage, because it will come down. I get the feeling that there might be some of the people, some of the responses kind of delaying, thinking the longer they delay, the longer it will be where it is now. But it will be moved. And one option, and they've done this in Louisville with the Castleman statue, is to put it in storage. I personally, that would not be my choice, but I'm only one person on this committee. Now, I do think that the next meeting, when's our next meeting? The November, is it November 4th or November 11th? I forgot.
Should be 11th. I think it was Miss.
Yeah, I think you may be right. I don't have my calendar in front of me, but what, yeah, I guess you're right, the 11th. We can ask if someone from the United Daughters will send us some information for that meeting. But whether this thing about owning the statue, and I have to remind you all again, that is not our job. According to the county court.
I'm just going to say it is relevant to at least my consideration. It sounds like it's relevant to Ann's consideration, and it very well may be relevant to Kenny's consideration based on his comments. So you might not find it relevant to your consideration, but we do. And so I do think it is good to get their input, but they need to give it to us.
No, I'm glad to take their info, but this arguing about who owns it, the county, that's their job. It is not our job.
I'm just reporting
and
what
the
I was
daughters
told.
need to, if they have an idea, instead of pussyfooting around, they need to tell us what it is.
Right.
I'm sorry, but that's how I feel about everything. People have had time to comment. If somebody has a strong feeling, we need to know what it is.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's get the.
I'm not real good at mind reading.
Drink more wine. Well, just drink more wine, you'll get really good. Well, may I speak? May I speak?
Yes, you certainly
okay. I talked to 4 different people because I felt, I needed to get more than one person's opinion. And they're drawing a line in the sand, and I'm just reporting what I was told.
And that's fine. If they want to sue, that is absolutely fine. That has nothing to do with us.
I agree.
But if they want to sue the county, that's absolutely within their purview to do.
And they're going to do it. I mean,
and that's fine. Did you talk to the state president?
I talked to the state past president.
That the woman, the number I gave you was not the president?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought
past president.
Okay. And you talked to, I assume, some people here in Davis County?
Only one. I talked to one in McLean County. Let's see. 2 in Davis County, 1 in McLean County, and then the past president. I don't know what county she's in.
I thought she was in Elizabethtown, but
You're right. That's her. Yeah.
Okay.
She's the past president.
Yeah.
Can I say something else about the, my discussion, that I wanted to start here was about extending our calendar. And we may very well be doing the county somewhat of a favor if this is getting as serious as Ann's reporting, to actually give them an opportunity, say another 2 weeks, just back this whole thing up, to say, hey, we give you 2 more weeks to, we're open to your comments. Please send them our way. Let us hear from you. Even possibility of contacting somebody and actually appearing at the next meeting.
That's certainly a possibility.
I think that's extremely important for, if they're as strong willed about this as it seems, to have their input in this. I mean, we have 6 months. I know we don't want to take it.
No.
But at the same time, there's no sense in just rushing this thing through whenever there's important information with Elmwood and the daughters that have come to light since the last meeting that would warrant, in my opinion, and my motion will be to extend the calendar process for 2 weeks here in a little bit, as soon as we're done with the discussion.
Okay. Okay.
But I just think it's extremely relevant, and it's very warranted with this new information.
Penny, would you want to, the 2 weeks from the 11th would be the 25th for the next meeting. So would you want to make it December 2nd then? Since that's
No, we have a meeting on November 18th.
Oh, do we? I thought.
Yeah, let me go get my calendar.
I think something happened with the calendar where we got off a week, because I think there was a November 4th and a November 18th when it actually should have been the 11th, and then.
Yeah, let me check here, because there was some confusion about the dates. Today's the 28th. The 11th of November is our next meeting.
Okay.
And then the next one after that. Okay, I think I really did goof up on that. Let's see. It's the 11th. Yeah, I've got down that we're to meet on the 11th. That's 2 weeks. And the next week would be, I had put November 18th, but that doesn't really make sense. I don't think. No, November 18th is Wednesday. It would be 1 week. The 18th would be 1 week after the 11th. Yeah, because I was trying not to get messed up with the holiday. If you wanted to, the next possible date would be December 2nd for the last meeting, if you wanted to add the 2 weeks.
Kenny, if that's your motion, I would second it.
I mean,
You'll put that in the form of a motion?
Yeah, I would. So we have 11th, 18th, and December 2nd. Is that what you're saying right now?
Yes, we've got, and there was a reason for that, which I'm not sure. The 11th is 2 weeks from today.
Right.
The 18th is only 1 week. So the next week, I think we had chosen the 18th because we didn't want to get into Thanksgiving week. So
Right.
we could skip, not do it the 18th, not do it the 25th, but do it December the 2nd, which would be a little extra time in there.
Yeah.
That's, and if you put that in the form of a motion.
I think I would like to make that motion.
Okay. And Tim, I think you said you want to second it? Yes? Tim?
Flagging on us.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. I couldn't hear you.
I think we lost. Oh, there he is. We lost him for a minute.
Yes.
Okay, the motion is.
Second.
Okay, made and seconded that we will be meeting on the 11th. That's the next meeting. And instead of meeting on the 18th, that we move that meeting to December 2nd. Am I saying that correctly? Yes, no?
As far as
I believe we could keep the 18th and the 2nd. We would just move back the, basically what I'm saying is open back up the comments for reconsideration with the new information. Basically move everything back 2 weeks and see what give the daughters a chance to get on board with us and hopefully join us in trying to come up with a common cause here and you know, and we might still be able to wrap this thing up on the same timeline. But
Well, one would hope, yeah.
yeah,
Well, we have to begin among us deciding what our recommendations are. The thing with the daughters is they could take it at any time. If they own it, they want to take it out to Panther Creek. That was the first offer. It was made to them before this committee was ever formed. So we need to get our ducks in a row here, okay? And Ann, if you can communicate with them and get some more information, because the others of us who had to talk to somebody, we've gotten the information. It hasn't always been what we would like, but again, I just have to keep reminding you, it's what we think, based on what we have heard from the community, would be the best thing. Then the county has to take over and decide if that is feasible. So I don't think we can discount Elmwood, or probably even the Art Museum for that fact. The county has to fight that battle. Thank God we don't have to. All we've got to do is decide what 3 or 4 sites we think would be best. And keeping in mind that the statue and the base can be, for instance, if it were at either museum, they would have to be separated. So that has to be kept into consideration too. If the daughters want it untouched, then they need to let us know where they're thinking about, because it's not going to stay where it is.
Okay,
I mean, that's a done deal, and it is not for us to discuss anymore on this committee.
let me add one point. I just put something you said triggered something that was said to me by the daughters, is that they were notified that it would be moved. They made an offer to move it, and it was withdrawn from the county that they could take it. I'm just telling you what I was told.
Well, they need to go back and talk to the judge, because that's not how I understood it. But again, it's not our bother. It's not our worry. So I think what we need to do, we still need to decide what are the sites that we think are most relevant. That if we don't have, no matter what anybody has said, what are the sites we think would be best for it to go to based on what we've been told by people. And then with that narrowed down, we will meet again on the 11th, and we will have, I hope, a full report. Now, what you're saying, Kenny, is to open the comments back up to everybody?
yes, I think so. I think with the information that we owe that to the public to because there was such a strong pull for Elmwood. And I mean, we can consider it and we can recommend Elmwood, but I'm not going to. If somebody tells me they don't want it, it's done. I mean, that's as far as my opinion. But you know,
and I understand what you're saying, but we're not the ones that have to decide. We're not the ones that have to do the wheeling and dealing, as it were.
Right.
And there is a lot of that involved. For instance,
yeah, I'm
there
sure
has to
there
be
is.
a lot of it if it's moved to either museum.
Yes.
And what we're looking at is we have to make a decision before, you know, we voted to extend it by 2 weeks, and I think that that's fine, because we suggested.
Well, we haven't voted yet. We've only got the motions. We got to carry the vote.
We haven't voted on it yet. Okay, thank you. But we got into the discussion of it. Okay,
Right.
Is there more discussion before we take the vote?
Well, I just want to make sure I'm clear. Initially, I thought the motion was to move back the meetings a couple of weeks. Kenny's saying to reopen the comments, which I'm totally fine with. So that's really the motion, right? To reopen the public comments?
Yeah, basically the whole process to move it back 2 weeks from where we were.
Okay.
We were as October 27th.
So today is the 28th. And so you're saying that people would have then until the 11th at our next meeting to get comments in.
Yeah, and we
So we're
could
moving the
shut that
deadline.
down. We could shut that down like the November 8th, like comments up to November 8th.
Well, how about the 9th? That's a Monday. The 8th
Okay,
is a
that's
Sunday.
fine. And that would give plenty of time to read and to receive them, the comments, and then we'll pick up to where we're supposed to be at today
Right.
on November 11th. And like I said, I would personally like to extend an invitation to a representative from the daughters to give us some firsthand comments about what they would like to see and what their opinion is. But like I said, I don't know where all them comments are at.
Yeah, I don't know quite how to handle that. And that's why I had asked Ann to get that information together. And what I would suggest, Ann, is that if one of the members who can speak for the whole group would like to join us on the next call for a limited time, we could do that.
Okay. I mean, I don't know, you know.
Okay, well, we got to be sure we've got this motion down so we can vote on it.
I just
We're
want to
going
throw this.
Extend the deadline for comments until the 9th of November.
Yes.
Yes.
And I want to just throw this out. I'm going to vote for this, but I feel like there's been a lot of time. We're adding another couple weeks. It would not be my intention next time to extend it further if they don't,
No.
they or other people don't get back to us between now and then. I think we do
No,
want to
Yeah,
get.
we could try to get back on schedule if no other information it comes forth in the next 2 weeks. We could just push on through, and we can still have discussion tonight about
The other places.
the other places. I mean,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean we just have to stop.
Right.
No. But we do need to get this motion taken care of.
Yep.
So we're going to extend the deadline, reopen comments until the 9th of November. And then we
Yes.
have our regular meeting on the 11th.
Yes.
That time, we can decide if we want to go ahead and meet the next week, the 18th, and get this done, or if we want to extend it to after Thanksgiving to the December 2nd. I don't think that necessarily has to be part of the motion.
Yeah. I think that's the way I see it.
Okay. And Tim, you're still seconding it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All those in favor of Kenny's motion that we reopen the comments until the 9th of November, and that we, at our next meeting on the 11th, have more information from the United Daughters or whoever wants to, they're the ones that are giving us the kind of slowdown here. So get more information from them. Everybody in favor of that? Say aye.
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 Aye. Okay,
Aye.
it passes unanimously. Okay, so I think that we can do that. I would suggest, Ann, as you talk to the United Daughters, that they really do need to talk to the judge executive, however. And because that's where the final decision is. And if they want to sue, that's fine. There's no problem with that. But it's not going to affect us. We are still going to recommend. Now, do you all want to wait until the next meeting to narrow this list down, or do you have ideas tonight?
So I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What is it that the committee wants me to do?
You have said that the United Daughters have 5 locations that they would
Yes.
like to see it moved. We would like to know what those are. So
Okay.
that if they're feasible, if they're within the county, that we can add those to our discussion of where we would like to see it go. Okay.
I'd be happy to ask them. I don't know if they'll tell me, but I mean, I was
Well,
kind of,
if they won't, then we will have to proceed with our recommendations.
sure, absolutely.
Because it really doesn't make sense to drag this out any farther. The comments, y'all are all reading them. I'm not the only one reading them. They're pretty much, we're hearing the same, about 5 locations, pretty
Mhm.
much. There've been a few for outside the county, and we've said that we're not going to consider those. There have been some very thoughtful ones. I think what I want to encourage you all is, even though we went ahead and did this site check, it's not final. All we have to do is where we think, based on what the community has told us, would be the best location. And then they can fight it out on their own. So keep that in mind. And Tim, I really appreciate your talking with them. I figured that it would take, frankly, I think it'll take some, I keep using the term wheeling and dealing, but maybe there's a better term. But I think that personally, it does still seem like a good site. It would be safe. It would be, I don't think Potter's Field is a, that to me would be kind of degrading.
Mhm.
And I probably shouldn't say that, but I don't think that would be appropriate. Wes, thank you for checking with the art museum. Again, there are still possibilities. We may come back, the Owensboro Museum of Science and History. We know that they have a place, they can work an exhibit around it, but we still have the base. Somebody has to take the base.
What about the, just starting how people feel about the possibility of taking the base and putting it at Panther Creek battle site and putting the statue itself, which I think the art museum was starting to become my preference, but as it stands, maybe the science and history would be the place for the statue itself. I think that's a pretty good, overall suggestion. I was just kind of curious how everybody else feels about that.
Well, I will say that speaking for the United Daughters of the Confederacy, which was my assignment, they are totally opposed to separating the statue and the base.
Mhm.
Well, I think that it's a suggestion, Kenny. I personally agree with you. If I were, casting my comment, I think that actually makes a lot of sense, but it may not work out that way. But what you're saying is that we're suggesting that people who like that idea let us know.
Yes.
Yes.
I would love to keep it together at the Panther Creek site, but I really feel like the security of the statue may not be very, it's pretty well open out there, and that would be my only opposition to moving the whole statue to that site.
I agree with you. That is a risk. However, that would be an appropriate place because that was an important battle. It was the only battle between regular troops. It was in Davis County, and that would certainly be an appropriate site. And it can be one of our recommendations. I think basically you've already said 2 recommendations that we need to consider, both of which are very good. Okay, anybody else? You have a suggestion, Ann?
I don't. I'm just trying to do what I was assigned to do and report from the Daughters of the Confederacy. And they have not. They told me today, right before this meeting, that there were 5 sites that they were considering, that they own the statue, blah blah blah, and blah, and they're going to sue. So, but that's not our problem.
Let me ask you this, Ann.
No, you're right. It is not our problem. And I'm sorry that it has come to that, but we'll see what happens. Wesley?
Yes.
Do you have from all the comments that we've looked at, Kenny has given us a couple of, I think, very good suggestions. Do you have an idea that you would, after we've gone through all these comments, is there something that stands out to you?
Well, I was hoping that Elmwood, because it's a big space and probably one of the best locations. And then I like the idea of the 2 museums being considered.
Okay. And Tim?
I agree with that. I think 421 would be great. But again, I think that thing would get, because of the monetary value of the statue itself. I mean, I think it would be defaced potentially, but I think the statue itself has got value as an art piece and would be at risk of just being stolen. So, I have concerns about that, even though I think that would be the best place, but I'm open to the other places as well.
Okay.
And I would like to hear from the UDC. I've asked, haven't heard, hopefully they'll get back to us and tell us what they, and then maybe
Yeah.
there'll be some overlap with the other things we're considering.
It very well may be.
I don't know.
Well, I think we probably accomplished all we're going to accomplish tonight. Does anybody have anything else to add? Any other business or any other suggestions?
You know, one thing I was wanting to see if Ann had a feel. Do you think the Daughters of the Confederacy are basically rebelling against this whole committee concept? You
No,
don't think
not at all.
You think they would?
You don't
Okay.
think so?
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because I kind of wonder, being that they wouldn't give you the locations, that maybe they don't want no part of what we're doing.
And Kenny, I've had conversations with a couple of them too, and I didn't get that sense either.
Okay, well,
I
good.
don't think it's,
But, you know, not having received the locations, you know, it's certainly not helpful if we don't get those.
Right.
yeah, but,
Yeah,
and they
they
may
might be
tell me,
a-
they may not, I don't know, you know.
They might
I'll
have a
ask.
great idea that would parallel the Panther Creek site, that would be so much more secure, and it would be like, you know, something we didn't think of. And I
Right.
would-
Well, one person has suggested putting it out, this was early on, putting it at Panther Creek, but having some kind of a interpretive center there. That would probably provide some security. And secondly, it would be able to give historic context and background, talk about the battle and things like that. So that was a suggestion that came in fairly early. I think I'm pretty sure I've talked about that with you all. But there would have to be, obviously, the Daughters would have to be willing to have some kind of an interpretive center or something. I mean, that would be up to them on their site. And I don't know how big that piece of land is that they own. I know they own where the highway marker is. There is adjacent land that is a cornfield that they might want to buy. But again, that's not our concern, but that is something that has been suggested. Okay,
I don't know.
well, I think that what we have decided then, we're going to push this off, but I feel very strongly that we need to have a very productive meeting next time, and we need to get some decisions made. And again, we're just making recommendations. The county court, fiscal court can take them, or they can discard them. But I think that we have been listening to the community. We've had comments from the community, and pretty much they've all fallen within a general area. And so it's up to us now to make the hard recommendation of where we think would be best based on what we've heard. And we will listen next week to the Daughters, or next call. And then from there, Kenny, I hope you're right. We can get back on schedule and get this wrapped up. Anybody else have any comments?
I would
Everybody
like
ready
to
to
ask,
have their glass of wine?
heck yeah. But I do
Okay,
want to
I
say
need
that.
a motion to
Yeah.
adjourn.
No, wait, let me just say one thing. You know, a couple of people commented on putting it down on the river by the other monuments. What is that?
That is not, I read those comments, and that is not an option, because that's another public place. The whole point here is that it needs to be where if you want to go see it, you may, but it's not in your face. And it would be at Smothers Park. And again, that's city property. So that's another whole, I mean, that really is city property. So, but thank you for bringing it up, because I had a couple of people who suggested that.
Mhm.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I will motion.
Thank you, Kenny. I thought y'all wanted to stay on here longer. I need a second.
Second,
Second, all those in favor,
aye.
Aye.
and sign out. Thank you all so much. I know this is dragging on, but we're going to get it taken care of, okay? And Kenny, I'm glad you're back in good health.
Yeah, yeah, heck yeah.
See you all on our next meeting, the 11th.